Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency, 504-556-0809 or davemietteINSagency.com.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
Cnc Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, Cnc provides patient-centered care for your entire family. Cnc Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher, live from our state-of-the-art Pontchartrain Production Studios. Yes, on a beautiful day in Old New Orleans, as we finally get a little fall feel to the air here in New Orleans. And of course, we got a great show for you over the next hour. Mike Detillier joins us on the show from WWL Radio. And of course, we'll talk Saints, LSU, Tulane. We'll talk the college football playoffs. If we have some time, we'll jump into the Pels as well. Mike, welcome back to the show.
Thank
Always
you,
good to have you, bud.
I'm glad to be back. It's my first venture back since Hurricane Ida. So yeah, it's quite an adventure.
For those that don't know, again, of course, you know, everybody knows Mike lives on the bayou. Mike, y'all got crushed. Talk a little bit about where you are now.
It's baby steps, but it's better every day. And Eric, it raised the benchmark, you know, because you and I, we're pretty close to the same age. And, you know, we were really young for Betsy, okay? And but for our grandmothers and grandfathers, mom and dad, that was the benchmark.
That's right.
Well, the benchmark has now been moved because Ida was every bit that and more. I'm doing WWL Radio that afternoon, the Saturday afternoon. Yes. We have somebody on from Weather Service. And when he said, because at one time this storm looked to be a Morgan City Homer storm, when he talked about a slight jog more to the east, and I knew who was following me was Archie Chasson, who was the president of Lafourche Parish. Right. And I texted him while I'm doing the show, this ain't good. Right. And, you know, at that time it was still 110, 115. But they kept saying, you know, 135, 150. But it hadn't got to that yet. Yes. And I wake up that morning and I see that.
You stayed.
I stayed. I saw that 155. Right. And I'm like, holy man alive. And so it caught the full brunt of it. Yes. Basically kind of ground zero. I live in the middle part of the parish. And we certainly had, I don't know of a home that didn't have shingle damage, tree damage, something wrong in that central Lafourche area. Yes. I had a friend of mine not live far from me. In passing the next day, he got a hole in the side of his house like a cannonball went through. One side and through the other side. Here's the best part, Eric. Go to show how Mother Nature is so crazy. The furniture never moved. Wow. The furniture's still in place, but you could see clean through and through his home. And yes, I got roof damage. everybody asks me about what happens to that. I have a big work shed that was alongside my home. It snapped the cables that was holding it into the ground, and it was off the ground, I'm going to say 20 inches, somewhere in that range. Thousands of pounds in there. First part of the storm actually picked it up, snapped the cables, and slung it onto the top of, part of it was on top of my den. Wow. It was just hanging there, so to speak. But fortunately, you know, not a lot of damage to that particular part, but, you know, roof, everything else. And so my thing is, I'm demolishing the shed now. It's been up since 1986. That poor shed has seen a lot of things in this time frame, but now, okay, you've had your fun with it. Now it's time to go. But you know, over 2 weeks without electricity, home generators and all, man, thank goodness for that, natural gas. And so, but slowly and surely coming back a little by little. But once you cross the intercoastal and you get into La Rose and Cutoff and Galeana and Golden Meta and Fouchon, you say, holy Lord, look at this. It looked like a bomb blew up, because we were there probably 5 days after us. Eric, I'm telling you, it was like an attack, and a bomb just leveled it. Homes, everything around it. And so, you know, our thing is, good gracious. But we're very fortunate that, you know, resilient people there, tough people, tough cats, and ladies too, tough ladies along the way, that 0 lives lost. That's it. Think about that. You know, you think about this monster that came in at Port Fouchon, where they clock winds at over 220 miles an hour, sustained winds of over 190, and you did not, now there were deaths, people afterwards. Of course. But for the storm, no. And you're like, how can that be? You know, man, good Lord was looking out at that particular point. For people who lost everything, man, your heart feels for them. The federal government has done nothing. Zero. So, you know, everybody wants to blame everybody else. This is a joint venture of screw up. You know, because, you know, I hear one, well, I blame the Democrats. And then the Republicans, Democrats, they blame the Republicans. Okay, it's both of you. Both of you. You have failed for these people, hardworking people. All they need is a little helping hand at this point. They're not asking for a handout, just help them along. And look what those people do. They're in the oil and gas business and seafood business, many of them. And you think about it, really this is about the rich and the poor. They treat this like insurance. Get out of there, okay? This happens too many times, get out of there, okay? And they got some of them that have told me this story. Okay, you want us to get out? Do that. And along the way, but it would hurt all of us, shut that spigot off at Port Fouchon that has 90% of the oil and gas pass through it. And if you complain about $3.50 gas, give me about 7 days, and then you really got to complain about it.
Well, again, we talked about it before the show, and I talked about it going back to when I was doing shows on Katrina. We energize this country, we feed this country, and again, when that disasters happen like this, the rest of the country, I'm talking about the federal government, is slow to be able to react. After Katrina, you should have it down pat, and you still don't have it down pat. And it comes down to what? Faith-based?
Faith-based groups, God bless them. They were in there in 5 days. 18-wheeler loads full of stuff, coming in with truck loads full of stuff. They got a couple of young ladies on the North Shore. Okay, they behind a computer. They were getting truck loads full of tents, vegetables, food, drinks, water, everything down there. Okay, if they can do it off a computer, you can't do it with FEMA? And my thing about it is, basically, it didn't matter who was in charge. Okay, if it's Joe Biden, because, okay, one of Joe Biden's closest aides is a guy from New Orleans, okay?
Cedric Richmond.
So Cedric's deal is, where were you last year when 2 storms hit Lake Charles? And basically they left on their own now.
They're still struggling.
They're still struggling mightily. So the United States senators, both of them, have done nothing. zero. They come in for a photo op and for a quip. One of them, I think he stays overnight thinking of stuff he can say, you know, just to get himself on the news.
Right.
But when he's running for election, he's everywhere that you can be seen. The governor, I got no idea what's happening on that end. The one thing I can tell people is be careful when you get in that booth. You can vote for who you want, Democrat, Republican, Independent, okay, if it's president, if it's senator, United States representative, but you better be real careful about your local officials, because those are the ones, when something like this happens, they are the people. If it's your parish president, your mayor, your sheriff, the deputies, they were the ones who did everything, sort of do.
They're at ground zero.
And yeah, again, they talk a great game, all of them, and because all of them are looking to run for re-election.
Of course.
And look how much I helped y'all. You ain't helped nothing. But Eric, it boils down to this: if this would have happened in New York, New Jersey, which they got remnants of it, they would have had the national news still here. But in essence, they are telling you, poor middle class people, you don't matter. You don't matter. And look where you live. You know, so I was telling you about Dean Blanchard, who has a seafood processing plant in Port Fourchon. One processing plant, 13% of the seafood in the United States come out of that processing plant. You know, well, so what? Their deal is, I had one female official tell me, man, we got to go help New York and New Jersey and all these other. Okay, I get that, brother. But, you know, you don't have anything set. This is weeks after. Now we months afterwards. And so it's really a broken down government system. But you know what it still comes down to? If you got cash or if you don't, and where you live.
That's right. That's right. And for us that live here in Louisiana, and I talked about this for years after Katrina on the radio show, we have not done enough to be able to, again, get the narrative out there on what we do for this country, energize this country, the ports, again, feeding this country through seafood. Again, so much that we do in this little space here in Louisiana for the rest of the country, and they don't realize it until a major storm comes and gas goes up. Or again, they don't get seafood, or the port shuts down and they don't have an opportunity to be able to get goods and services. And we don't do enough to be able to express that to the rest of the country. That's the issue.
And that is part of it. And think about it. Port Fourchon was really ground zero.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
They were down 9 days. Just think about that.
What does that do to the oil and gas industry?
And what does it have also? You think about goods and services passing through that port everywhere. But people don't get it. Outside this area, no one knows that. And, you know, I've even had people say in the Baton Rouge area, well, Mike, I feel for y'all, but, you know, it didn't affect me. Oh no! When you go to that, when you go get gas,
there's a ripple effect.
Okay, when you go to the store, you're not telling me some of that didn't affect you.
No,
but you know, for the grace of God, for people living in Metairie and Kenner and New Orleans, you did get it.
We got it, but not like y'all got it.
But think about if that storm, and I mean a slight jog, 25, 30 miles to the east more, you'd have been dealing with a hurricane of 150 mile an hour winds. Think about what that would have done to a major metropolitan area. And we were fortunate in Lafourche, Wendell Curall, he is the unsung hero there, building those levees, late 70s, early 80s, and how they sustained. And there was water and overtopping of a couple levees. That did, and so if you got water in your house, man, it's bad, no matter what. Or mud. We've got one of the port commissioners who didn't get water in his house, he got mud in his house. Just think about had he not done that, part of that levee board and built that, and Terrebonne is just trying to catch up. But yet they were similar. They did not have the water issues that really did affect Laplace. And the storm at that time now had slowed down. We caught it at 7 to 9 miles an hour. By the time it gets to Laplace, it's 4 miles an hour. You would say, that's not a big difference? No, be in the middle of that storm and see if it's not a difference between 4 and 9. But Eric, it was the longest storm I've ever been through in my life. And the craziest thing is, during the Ida storm, which passed right over them, I'm on the phone. I'm doing radio coverage. I got people calling me. Mike, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. He said, how did I get through? I said, I don't know, but you did. Can we come on a few minutes? Okay. I really can't tell you too much because I'm right there outside because I did go outside for a little while. We had some neighbors that wanted us to take a look at their homes, and by this time, man, trees completely uprooted. But one of the craziest things, we look out the back and there's a tree, and it went, when the storm was coming this way, it went poof, it came down this way. Okay, the eye passed, and then all of a sudden the wind started blowing back. The wind was so strong it actually picked the tree up, put it right back in the hole, and so it was standing back up. Okay, a little while later we looked, the tree's down on this side. So it's the uprooting of those trees. The other thing too it affects is the fruit industry.
Yes.
You think about, the satsumas, oranges, lemons, and in this area we have a ton of them on the bayou.
Yes.
Man, all those things came up. They lost a good 75% of the fruit off those trees.
Yes.
Or you lost the tree itself.
Right.
I've got 2 of them. They got to come down. I can actually see the roots.
Yes.
Of my satsuma tree. I can look straight down and actually look straight down at it. It pulled all that mud away from that tree, and that's what you see as the roots. It's, man, Mother Nature, it was unbelievable. And here's the crazy part. You see some older homes had virtually nothing wrong.
They knew how to build.
And I'm like, man, my mom, God bless her, she passed away a little over a year ago. Her home, slight damage. That home was built in 1950.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that sustained it. And yet other homes that were built, new homes, major damage.
Yeah. We do want to make sure, again, everybody knows, again, folks that have been affected by Ida still need help. So again, if you have the wherewithal to do that, please do.
And especially now, Eric, as the season changed, a beautiful day today.
Right.
When you lose your home, you lose everything, so to speak. But your clothing.
Everything.
Okay, so you got a few things, sort of summertime, but what happened to your winter clothes or coats and stuff? And we're trying to set up things on the bayou where we will have a coat drop off, or if you have winter clothes that you can drop it off. Because so many people are affected by this. Okay, I got summer clothes. What happens in the winter? But Eric, the most heartbreaking thing is to see it affect kids.
Yes.
People don't realize that. Okay, if I'm a grown up, I can live in my Jeep, but you're talking about little kids.
Yes.
And how the federal government has just turned their backs on people down there. Basically turned it. And it's really sad to see in a very strategic part of the world.
Right. That, again, is vulnerable, and not enough has been done to protect it. Look, Mike, I feel for you.
Well, I'm good.
But I'm talking about for everybody that lives down there.
The people that live there, and everybody is affected a little bit different. Some people are really affected. Some people very little affected.
Right.
But man, past that intercoastal, or if you go down in Terrebonne Parish, if it's Montague, Dulac, and you look at that and say, wow, how could people who stayed here survive this?
Yes.
It's amazing.
It is. And again, it's not something that the people of this region do not understand. Again, I went through it with Katrina. I had water over my roof in Araby. So many people after Katrina, again, in the New Orleans area, lost everything. You can go to Lake Charles, Lafayette. Again, at this point, we know what's going on, and we know the situation, what's coming when folks lose everything. So,
and also
those of us that have the wherewithal to be able to give need to be able to step up.
Another thing, too, is the stuff about that, this climate isn't changing.
Right.
Man, you get your head dug in the sand about that. We're seeing these storms getting worse and worse every year.
And getting stronger.
More intense.
And moving quicker. Okay, so that, again, it's harder to be able to say. That's why I talked about after this storm, you have to, again, reevaluate, contraflow and evacuations, because these storms are getting stronger and moving quicker, and it's harder to get people out. So you're going to have to take a hard look at that.
And a younger generation now, thank goodness, they've taken off.
Right.
Okay, people like us.
We didn't.
Man, we stayed for those little storms. Man, we stayed for that storm. I ain't worried about it. And then, but you catch one like this one, you saying, I ain't ever staying again. Now, you may have issues with older people that don't want to leave.
Yes.
I'm not going to leave. I'm staying here because my home's here. I've been through all these storms. I'm not leaving. Now, a lot of them now, a certain age now, oh, man, I ain't staying for another one like this.
Mike, after Katrina, of course, we left for Katrina, but after Katrina, and I look at the storm, anything 3 or above, I'm out.
Yep.
I'm gone. I'm not sticking around.
And yeah, slow moving too is damaging.
Yes, it is.
So
yes, it is.
Be careful with that.
Look what Zeta did last year to us again.
And this is back-to-back years. I've had somebody tell me, for a storm to pass over a certain area, back-to-back years, the numbers are like Powerball. My thing is, what? Come on, you ain't ever lived in the country. That's like saying lightning don't strike twice in the same spot. Lake Charles, back-to-back storms. Last year we caught Zeta, which came in at Cocodrie, which is not far from my home, passed through. And now the trajectory was a little different because you guys got the eye of the storm. We just caught maybe like a corner of it because of the way it passed. And now with Ida. So don't everybody have somebody try to convince you that a storm back-to-back years won't pass.
Believe me, not in today's world.
Not in today's world,
that's for sure. Again, please keep the people that have been affected by Ida all over river parishes, in the city, down in the bayou. Keep them in your prayers, and of course, if you have that wherewithal, especially if we get into these Christmas months, please give back to those that have lost so much. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back, we'll jump into some Saints, LSU, Tulane, all that coming up here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Mike Detillier is our guest.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Experiencing rough weather with a bad roof can be a nightmare. It doesn't have to be.
Suburban Roofing, because when it comes to roofing, there is a difference.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Mike Detillier of WWL Radio is our guest. Mike, Saints 5-2, 36-27 winners over Seattle. They'll take on Atlanta on Sunday, noon kickoff in the Caesars Superdome. Loss of Jameis Winston. Talk a bit about that loss, what that means to this club going forward.
Well, one, I didn't think they'd be 5-2 at this stage.
Okay.
I thought they would be a 4-3 team. Okay. I really thought they would lose against the Bucs. Right. It's sort of close win-wise, but who they won and who they lost to was different from the start. And their defense has played terrific.
Yes.
And that you've got to hang your wagon to the rest of the way now. Mm-hmm. And special teams plays a bigger part also.
Oh, no doubt.
Because you got to win there. Losing Jameis because he was your guy, and Sean made that selection. Anytime you lose your starting quarterback, it hurts your football team.
Yes.
And his deep ball skills, which he does very well, is going to be missed. We know in the past how Sean feels about Taysom Hill. Mm-hmm. Okay, he's the project for Sean. And the fact that it wasn't Trevor Siemian going up against Jameis Winston.
Right.
It was Taysom Hill going up against Jameis Winston in the preseason. You're going to have to modify your offense because not only do you not have Jameis Winston, you don't have Michael Thomas now the rest of the year. You're going to have to rely more on the running game, short pass, That means Alvin Kamara a lot more. But, boy, this team has been resilient. I give Sean a lot of credit. He's found a new way to win, and that is with defense, special teams, and riding the back of Alvin Kamara. But isn't that similar to how we saw Seattle do it years ago? They had the Legion of Boom, their special teams, Marshawn Lynch.
Right.
That's before Russell Wilson became Russell Wilson.
Right.
And so it's a different story today, but it's different from what we've seen Sean Payton teams in the past. The offensive line certainly the key there. But if you'd have told me before the season, I'd have said 4-3 at this stage, 5-2, and you playing a team that is really struggling.
Yes.
You can say, throw the record out, but come on, that's just cliche.
Yeah.
It's who you play and when you play them.
Plus, this is Atlanta's Super Bowl. When they play
ever since this team has been in a free fall.
Right.
And so what I did yesterday for Sports Talk, I took the last 10 games, last 5 years of Atlanta. And the Saints are 6-4 against Atlanta. But 3 of those wins came 2016, early 2017. But if you take the 4 losses the Saints had to Atlanta, they sacked Matt Ryan in 4 games 5 times. Okay? So basically almost like 1 sack a game.
Right.
But they rushed for 217, 142, 132, 143. They had a running game. And a lot of it was Devontae Freeman.
Yes.
And I'm talking about the Devontae Freeman of 2016, 2017, and along with Tevin Coleman. They don't have a running game anymore. They're averaging 3.7 yards a rush. They can't protect Matt because, I don't respect if you're going to run the football on me. One, you can't, and your offensive line is in disarray.
Right.
But on the 6 games the Saints have beaten Atlanta in the last 5 years, they've got 34 sacks. That's all about putting pressure on Matt.
Absolutely.
And now, doesn't have Ridley, who's fighting some mental health issues. Your number 1 receiver becomes Russell Gage. Now, Kyle Pitts, terrific football player, but he's still a rookie at that flex tight end position. So one thing, stop the run and then put all the heat on Matt Ryan saying, I dare you to beat us. Throwing the football because we think we can match up. Defensively, most people couldn't tell you who's playing for Atlanta defensively other than Grady Jarrett and Debo Jones.
Right.
Okay? And so you see teams, a lot of success getting around the edge, rushing the football on them, throwing the football downfield against them. So this should be a game you win.
Yeah, of course.
I don't care who's your quarterbacks, but here's the thing. Las Vegas doesn't care about your weaknesses, don't care about who you have, who you don't have. They worried about a point spread.
Right.
They put it at 5.5 to start. Guess what it is right now? 5.5.
5.5, okay.
It doesn't matter who's the quarterback. They feel as though the Saints are that much better than Atlanta, and it doesn't matter who your quarterback is. If it's Taysom, if it's Trevor Siemian, it doesn't matter to them.
Who do you think is the starter?
I think it's Taysom.
You think it's Taysom?
Yeah.
Okay. And how much does the offense change there?
Well, Taysom to me is a one read. I'm taking off run with it.
That's what he should be. He wasn't that way last year when he was trying to be a pocket passer. But I think in order for him to be effective, that has to be 1-2 reads and go.
Yeah. So you can't sit back there because Taysom is a runner. He's not a scrambler.
Right.
When you watch him play, he's not making all these plays off the perimeter. Where he's really effective is pulls that ball, he looks downfield, pulls that ball down, he takes off. His speed is really good, and he's a power runner. Now that sort of makes me cringe a little bit because he doesn't slide.
Right.
He takes on tacklers downfield. Man, God bless you.
Right.
If you want to be a tough guy, but tough guys don't last too long in this business.
Especially now that you've had this concussion that's kept you out for 3 weeks. Does it make you predisposed to have future concussions if ultimately you start getting hits like that? And we've seen that with players in the past.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to slide. He's going to have to, play this like a quarterback and not like, again, a running back / tight end / jack of all trades type player.
I agree, but will he do that?
Right.
Because I think you are who you are.
True.
You can't change somebody's personality as a player.
Well, we saw Jameis change a little bit. I mean, he realized,
bit.
right? He realized that His receivers weren't getting open. And in the first part of the season, he was trying to stand in the pocket and deliver the ball. Eventually, he started realizing, I got to run, because these guys are not getting open. And that's what we saw over the last few games. And, of course, that led to his injury.
Yeah, and, that's just unfortunate to see happen.
Yes.
And, and Sean talked about over 20% more on the turf than it is on the field. It wasn't a dirty play,
No, not really. I mean, again, he did get him from behind. I looked at the size of those cleats, man. And the first thing I thought was, man, on that turf, the size of those cleats.
You dug in,
right?
And Devin, he's just trying to reach out to grab him. Grab him. Now everybody, it's got to be a horse collar. How can that be a horse collar? He didn't grab that. Well, you got to remember they changed the horse collar rule a little bit. That it's not just around the neck, but it's around the shoulder pads also into that thing. Now I did think, man, the Bucks had a mean streak in that game. I mean, that was a lot of things going on.
Right.
That you saw.
They were trying to affect the quarterback.
They definitely
you
were.
Want to talk about Bountygate and the Saints on that 2009 run where they were affecting the quarterback. There's no doubt they were trying to affect the quarterback.
Yeah, and you saw the zero coverage downfield. When you watched you replayed the next day, and you saw it was one-on-one. And their deal is, man, I dare you to throw it downfield. You know what? We coming after you. The Saints offensive line did a really good job of picking things up. And you would figure he would get hurt running the ball.
Right.
It just was a freak thing. You feel bad for him because he put in so much time and effort, and to see it end like that. But that's part of sports.
Time, effort, and also, again, humbling himself. That was the other part.
Yeah.
Last year, coming in, sitting behind Breeze, taking the one-year deals, and then, of course, now it's an uphill battle with a very, very severe knee injury for him. And there are no guarantees. Again, he was on a one-year deal. There's no guarantees going forward for him. It'll be interesting to see ultimately if he's back with the Saints or not.
I think the biggest, I don't know of the offseason, is going to rely on two positions. Last year, we talked about it. It was like 52 pickup. And you could throw any card down, or could we need this, need that? We're going to have to cut this, cut that. Now, it's really centered about quarterback, wide receiver.
No doubt about it. And, Mike, it's mind-blowing because you and I have discussed over the years, again, these drafts, these past drafts. The last couple drafts, Mike, when you're grading out the wide receivers, there have been excellent wide receivers. Last year was an excellent wide receiver draft, and the Saints have done nothing in the high rounds to go out and get a wide receiver.
That's shocking to me because you've set yourself up now for this.
Right.
I can praise what the Saints have done drafting, especially on the defensive side of the football. You can't take that away.
It's carrying them right now.
But you almost like you disregarded the wide receiver position.
And there were so many good ones that were coming out of college.
And I didn't quite understand that. And it's not like you went out and got a top free agent wideout.
Right.
You couldn't afford it. You couldn't afford it
cut
this year.
Emmanuel Sanders.
Who you had got the year before.
Right.
And so, man, it's kind of, you've set the table for this situation now. So, I think now you ride the Taysom Hill wagon.
Right.
Hope he can stay healthy, because if not, man, but I was really impressed with Trevor Siemian.
I want to go there because I believe Taysom's going to start as well. But I think it's a little bit easier to go back to now Siemian if there's a struggle there and moving him back to jack of all trades. Look, he's a journeyman quarterback. He's played in 25 games. He's got a winning record, but there's a reason why he was fourth string on the practice squad.
That's correct.
Okay?
There's a reason why in doing pregame coverage for the Titans now, it's over 28 years for me. We never talked about Trevor, and that's where he was before the Saints got him. He was with the Titans, and he was kind of the backup. Okay, because I think they were all worried about COVID. That did happen to the Broncos. But, man, let's keep a guy just in case that room gets knocked out. Trevor was that guy, and the Saints brought him in because they were, hey, listen, we don't want to be in that spot. We've got to get a fourth quarterback. And so, man, did he look like he didn't belong? He was poised.
No, he did. But film's a great equalizer, and when you get a chance to game plan for a specific quarterback, it could be different. If something was to happen, could he take the reins and could they win under him?
Well, man, listen, you beat one of the best teams in the NFL with him,
right?
And so again, I think the one.
I'm talking about sustained success, though.
That part is questionable with me because again, to me, the schedule, okay, you do play Buffalo and Dallas, who are really good down the stretch.
Tampa again.
And Tampa. but there are games there that Trevor could win for you. And so it's not like you're fighting the heavyweight champion of the world each and every week. And your defense is so good. I think that under Drew, you might have had a bit and a piece of it, but boy, you didn't have it like what you got now. And this was during the summer. Pete Jenkins told me this at Louisiana Line Camp. He said, Mike, he said, it don't matter who's the quarterback. Just look how they stacked on defense. He said, man, because he had been training a lot of the Saints defensive linemen.
He trained Yamada when he was
for 3 weeks. He caught him in September, but he trained a number of the Saints players defensive line wise because really Ryan Nielsen, his mentors are Ed Ogeron, Pete Jenkins, because that's who he coached under. And so Pete's teaching the same thing Nielsen is. And he had told me, Mike, I'm going to tell you this. He said, you can believe it or not. I think David Onyemata is the most talented player on the Saints team.
On the team?
That's what he's told me.
Wow.
He said, listen, I've looked at that squad. I think he's the most talented. Now, he said, I'm not saying he's the most productive.
Right.
I'm saying he's the most talented. When you look at that 6'4", 310-pound man, and you saw him demolish that inside for the Bucs. The other thing with David is, and I don't know because nobody's really going to say, but I'm wondering when you saw him play defensive end, was that not Pete Jenkins saying, hey, Ryan, let him play defensive end a little bit, and y'all take a little look at that. And it keeps him in shape. He plays in a couple preseason games. Play him at defensive end and see how this looks, because he's always told me his initial step is as quick as any interior defensive lineman I've ever had. So he said, I would love to see him if they flanked him out wide and see how it goes. And Pete brought that up. This is June.
Right.
Now, the Saints didn't do this until August.
Right.
So in the back of my mind, it stuck that maybe he whispered to Ryan, hey, give him a shot at defensive end, see what he can do there. And we saw it. Man, him coming off the edge, and you saw those tackles, man, they were moving their feet real quick to either get out of his way or to try to get their hands on him. Because and Marcus Davenport, I don't know that he'll ever learn a really good speed move, but it's his power skill. Man, he takes it and launches that, tackle.
Right.
And with that length he's got,
just got to stay healthy, man.
And that's the key. And certainly DeMario, week in, week out,
he's been an All-Pro.
It's unbelievable to watch him play.
I got to believe he's the MVP of this team.
Oh, no question about it. And his leadership, his smarts.
Right.
Do you see him out of position?
Never.
I mean, it's like having a coach out
Mike,
on
when
the
I
field.
watch the games a second time, it's almost like a ballet.
Yeah.
When you're watching again, him. Again, reading, reacting, going off, moving off from maybe a rushing position to cover a receiver or a tight end. I mean, it's amazing. And people don't realize he's on the other side of 30. He's on the other side of 30.
Eric, I can tell you, I cannot remember a guy at that position that's better at 32 than he was at 25, 26. When you think about it, because most of the time linebackers, their key years, they get a couple years in the league, is 24 to 29.
Right.
And then the wear and tear starts to bend on you, and when you get into your 30s, you can start to see it start to decline a little bit. Now, that didn't happen to Sam Mills.
No.
It didn't happen to London Fletcher, who was built similar to Sam.
Right.
But you see DeMario and you're amazed. How could he have went through that many teams and they couldn't figure it out?
That's right. Well, and the other thing is, again, he stays on the field. He reminds me a lot of Ricky Jackson, okay? In the fact
he's one tough guy.
Just tough. And he's always available.
And the thing with it is, he's not only great against the run and his ability to run the field, he can drop back in coverage.
And he can rush the passer.
And so you've got the whole gambit with him. And today, I know from a scouting standpoint, to find a cornerback today is really tough because, when we have these camps, I always joke with Coach Rod, Don Rodrigue, about, man, if we got these camps, you got 100 kids here, 93 of them want to play wide receiver or flex tight end, and the other 6 or 7, I'm playing cornerback. Okay, eventually that all catches up to you. The numbers are so scaled in the direction of the wide receiver flex tight end position today. It's hard to find that cover guy.
Right.
and it's getting harder and harder. But the toughest position to play is linebacker.
Yep.
Because of the RPOs you see today, where that quarterback, okay, gets the ball and he sticks it in the belly of that running back. So, man, your instinct is, man, I'm getting to the field, it's a run. He pulls it out and he throws the ball right over the top of you. Okay, it's 3rd and 6. I know they're going to throw it. So out of the shotgun, they got a running back behind the quarterback. He catches the ball. And so your first thing is, man, I'm in reverse. Hands the ball off to the running back. You got 3 linemen, 8 guys in coverage.
Right.
So, man, he's got some leeway now.
Yeah.
Once he breaks through that initial line. And so you better have corners and safeties that can tackle.
Yep.
Bottom line.
No doubt. Mike, let's talk about Michael Thomas's loss. One of our longtime viewers, Hal Plauché, asked me to ask you, wants to know about Mike Thomas's skill set, and then can that skill set be taught to other wide receivers?
Taught?
Yes.
No way. Either you got it or you don't. Look, Mike's size. That's the big part about it. And his hands. He's got huge hands.
Right.
But he is so skilled at running a short route, breaking it off, and it's pow, he catches it and he's up the field, and he just kind of puts the ball out, okay? So you got, what, 8 or 9 yards on that play, or 10 or 12 yards on that play. And try teaching that to these guys today. You know, either you have it or you don't. You can't teach that to, now you can upgrade that area in a position of getting into and out of a cut and a break quicker.
Right.
But just that skill set of making that catch in traffic, and we would see it after practice. Drew and Michael Thomas work on that little slant pattern.
Right.
And Drew was over and over. And Drew would just throw it to an area, go get it. Go get it. And, you know, Mike Tao, catch it here, and he's up the field. Not a lot of guys can do it like him. And look, the numbers he put up before he gets the injury. And, you know, a lot of people say, oh, he got paid, he didn't play well. All I know is the year he got paid and he signed the contract, he had the best year he ever had.
Right.
Now, you can see something's happened here.
Yes.
Okay. Ego.
Right.
Personality. Something changed here.
Yes.
And looking back, come on, when you knew in February your ankle wasn't right, you had to have the surgery then.
Absolutely.
And he goes through that tightrope surgery in June. And we had Dr. David Elias on last night from Ortho LA. And he was talking about there could be some complications with it. He said it does happen because of the sutures. They're actually drilling through the bone.
Okay.
So he said it could be an infection, could be the sutures giving you pain afterwards that you have to go back in and fix that particular deal. You talk about the torque on a receiver. Okay, you're not playing in your backyard anymore. This ain't high school football. You're not Al Bundy.
Right.
Okay? This is the NFL. And so, you know, the big issue here is waiting so long to have this.
Mike, again, it's a letdown. He let his teammates down. He let his coaches down. He let the organization down.
And he let himself down.
And the fan base. And he let
himself.
In a year where you knew the GOAT was retiring and they needed you. They needed you with this new quarterback, whoever it was going to be.
And you got paid.
Right. Not to have the surgery, to be MIA, not to be able to be found. Again, look, honestly, unforgivable. Unforgivable.
And my thing is, everybody's got a conspiracy theory today about everything.
Of course.
This wasn't his decision. This was the Saints' decision. What would make you think the Saints would put that on the line,
come on,
knowing what you don't have coming back, that you wouldn't want him healthy? Come on, use a little common sense here.
Especially the type of surgery he had. Okay, this wasn't just go in and, you know, a quick little, scope and then you're done. This was major surgery.
And I think he was really working hard to get himself back to where he could come back. But there are complications and setbacks all the time in surgeries.
I agree.
It is something that, in my 30-plus years doing this, has changed the most, and that's surgery. That you can go through with an arthroscope.
Right.
You can go in certain surgeries. You got specialists now. I don't care if you got a groin injury, a hernia, ankle, knee, back, neck, you name it. They got a specialist for it today. And so the surgeries are better.
Right.
They heal quicker.
Right.
The athletes know how to train for it.
The rehab is better, so you get back on the field quicker.
The rehab is tremendously better.
Right.
But there are always exceptions to the rules. But this should have been done in February and March.
No doubt.
It should not have waited till June. That is on the player. And if you weren't coming back and you say, man, even if the team had maybe say, hey, let's give this, man, I'm going to see a second opinion, seek a second opinion on this.
Right.
But, man, they got conspiracy theorists all across the board with this. That this was all set up. Man, set up. For what?
Doesn't matter. You should have had the surgery in February.
Bottom line.
Shouldn't have had it right before camp?
No.
Okay, all those months were wasted. And now you're in a situation where you can't get on the field this year, and it really hurts because...
And now you can't trade him, because if I'm a team looking for a big receiver, I don't know how well he's come back from that.
And the money... And
money is the other part.
And the other part is, everybody has to remember, we've lived this here in New Orleans. The dead money, okay, that strangles a team. We're dealing with it right now with the Saints. So it is.
So you can't trade him?
No, he's untradeable right now.
People, just cut him. Cut him. You see the salary?
It's still the dead money.
It's still, you got to pay for him next year if he's on the team or not.
That makes, again, look, I'm all for at this point cutting bait, but you know what? You got to do it smart. You got to see first of all he can play. You got to try to get to a situation.
Get him on the field.
Exactly, and then you make your decision. But you're right. Something changed. Something changed at Baton Rouge as well.
Oh, goodness.
Went from again the penthouse now again out with Ed Ogeron. Nobody closer in this area than you to Ed Ogeron. What happened?
You know, I said this, and I've had a lot of people tell me, man, I remember last year, you're talking to Eric Asher during the summer, and you said, trade your passion for glory.
That's right.
What did you see? And, you know, I'm not with Ed every day, certainly, but you could see what he should have done right afterwards. Was he was in a position to say, man, I can go out and get the best assistant coaches money can buy.
That's right.
I can go out and get them. I can redo my staff around me. I can put really good people in position that, hey, it's not going to be a 1-year run to Mount Everest. We're looking at this 5, 8, 10 years down the road. What I saw was the same. And maybe Ed was too nice about it. You know, maybe he didn't want to get rid of people that were around him when he wanted.
Yes.
And I just saw that it's the hardest thing today to sustain, and you and I have seen it in business, in the business we in.
Yes.
Let somebody get a little bit of success. And they're not the same person anymore. They don't work as hard. They don't put in the time.
That's right.
They clink the glasses at night. Hey, you know, no, I'm not saying Ed did that. Ed had his issues with that in the past. But, you know, you could just start to see everything unraveling around him. You know, to me, somebody's personal life is their personal life.
Right.
As long as it doesn't affect what you're doing out on the field. Man, I know a few people who have success in their personal life. You like in the vortex of the tornado. I mean, you know, they got some stories, but it became the backdrop.
Right.
And then who is feeding the media, certain people in the media, these stories? Because we've had a couple of LSU players tell us, never happened.
Never happened.
Never happened.
Right.
That there were no women out there on the practice
field. Their kids were not practicing with the team.
Okay, who has the most to gain by leaking that?
Right.
You can figure it out real quick. Hey, if you, Scott Woodward, and you wanted to get rid of Ed Ogeron because, one, he's not your guy, he wasn't winning, and that's the main thing.
It's the winning thing.
Him losing those games, that's what got him fired.
Right.
Okay, if that's the case, fine. But you threw gasoline on the fire here. In essence, what you were trying to do was make it look even worse than what it was, okay? And I'm not, like I said, I'm not with Ed 24/7, so I couldn't tell you all the stuff I've heard, and some of them I know is completely untrue.
Right.
But Eric, it boils down to winning and losing.
That's what it always boils.
Having good people around you, having people that can, man, I did so many junkets with Nick Saban when he was here at LSU. And, man, it got to the point, Eric, I could say the speech better than him because he said it everywhere he went.
Right.
But one of the things he would always bring up is recruit and develop players.
Right.
And he said, you got a lot of people in this world that can recruit, but once you get them, then what do you do with them? And he said, that's part of my job, and I cannot blame anyone else. I picked that assistant coach. He's got to be able to take that recruit and develop him, the way we want him to play in our system.
Right.
Which you've seen at LSU. They've had 3, don't tell me this stuff about they not recruiting well.
Right.
They've had 3 top 5 recruiting classes. People go, well, it's talent. They got talent. It's the development of that talent that is now. Have they restructured their recruiting classes as well as it could have been? You know, you can make an argument there. But don't fling me this. It's easy to say, well, they're not getting the talent. Years ago, it's the only time you ever reacted to something. They had one guy come on here and, you know, he want to give you that eloquent speech about, you know, their average talent at LSU, average talent. Right. So I never forget, we meet up maybe a week after he wins the national championship, and he say, hey, ask that dude what he thinks about that average talent. I must be pretty good as a coach, right? If it's only average talent.
Right.
And, you know, he was just, but that was his way of kind of sticking a little bit about the average talent. And so you've recruited well, you have not developed your talent, you have not hired good assistant coaches, and think about what you don't have today. Okay, Pete Jenkins. No matter in his 70s or not, there's a reason why Nick Saban's bringing him to Alabama for 2 weeks. Kirby Smart's bringing him to Georgia for 2 weeks. Dabo's got him in Clemson for a couple weeks. There's a reason.
Yes.
Steve Ensminger, I think, does not get the credit for 2019.
Everybody gives it to Joe Brady.
Okay, and listen, I don't want to take anything away from Joe. What Joe brought to the table was a certain style offense.
Exactly.
And also, Joe was great with the receivers because that's who he really coached.
Yes, he did, yeah.
Steve coached the quarterback.
Right.
Steve coached Joe Burrow.
Right.
It wasn't Joe Brady. It was Steve. When you'd go to practice, Joe was working with the receivers and the tight ends and different routes. And Joe, listen, watch for him on this route. Watch him. And they worked so great together, Ensminger and Brady. You know, because Steve's, they don't have no ego, on that particular deal. And you think about losing people like that. You know, Meatball, who went to Baylor, you know, the defensive line coach, who was a great recruiter for LSU. And you lost him in the process, and you just didn't replace the guys you had. And then we're not even talking about Dave Aranda and Joe Brady at this stage to lose those key pieces.
And that was part of a revolving door of coaches, not bringing in coaches that, again, that were right up to the same type of development skills that the other coaches had. Renee Nato did a story a while back. 1/3 of the recruits, again, either didn't make it into school, ended up transferring, flunked out, whatever. That hurts as well. So
but you know what?
There are a lot of factors.
I could do that for every school, top school.
Sure, of course.
I can cut that. Alabama loses 1/3 of their recruits that now get in there. You know, that was a story, I don't remember exactly who wrote it, that, you know, that they lose, you know, like 26% of their recruits every year.
Right.
They're either leaving, they go in the transfer portal, they're transferring. So it happens everywhere. But this is what makes Saban so great, that he takes those guys that stay, and then he can tell that freshman, you got an opportunity to play real quick here. You got an opportunity to play. And Nick was not like that at LSU. He was, let's get him a little experience as a backup, then we'll play him. He has adapted to the times.
But he realizes you got these guys 3 years and that's it.
Eric, I think, is when, long after we both pass away, they're going to be writing books on what Nick did, because he's done it like nobody else. Okay, you can talk about all the great coaches in the past and take nothing away. They were playing at the rules what they had. Of course. But Nick is doing this under scholarship limits. Guys leaving early to the NFL. Transfer portal. And even more important, the commuter world of assistant coaches. Man, I'm going to Alabama. I'll spend 1 year there, then I'll go somewhere else and I'll get a better job. And, you know, and that's what, for LSU, maybe Ed should have done better, is saying, I know I'm going to only get him for a year, but boy, that 1 year, we're going to do really well, and then I'll be back to hiring someone else. And I think he tried to do it this year, going after Marcus Freeman, understanding that Marcus ain't going to stay too long. He ain't staying long at Notre Dame either, that he's going to be a head coach somewhere. So I go back to what I said in the summer. There's a little bit of trade-off. You know, you traded your passion for glory. Come on, you can't be doing all these shows and all that. That's all great and fine. But there was so much, you could almost feel the wind going around him, and there was nobody there to say, Ed, this ain't how it should be done.
Right.
And, it's not how it should be done. Now, maybe no one wanted to tell him that because, okay, I'm just coming off a national championship year and you telling me I'm doing wrong?
Right.
That's difficult to do. People say, oh, I would have done it. Yeah, right. Where you work, you go tell your boss how to do his job? It doesn't happen. But again, it's I feel bad for him. I feel bad for the LSU fans to see the product, which has taken a decline, and it is all because of Ed.
Right.
It's on his shoulders, no matter how you cut it.
No doubt. Got 2 minutes left. Who do you think will be the next coach?
I said this the day afterwards in talking to people that have money, that give to LSU, of course. And also people in the program. They really like Mel Tucker from Michigan State. At that time, people were, Mel Tucker, who's Mel Tucker? Right. They know it now, a couple weeks later.
Sure.
But I do think Scott will swing for the fence at one big name coach.
Okay.
And I think it's Lincoln Riley.
Right.
I think he's going to see, because Scott's always been, and he's sort of explained this to me, that I want that coach to tell me no.
Right.
Okay. But if you tell me, yeah, I'm interested.
Yeah.
It's not going to be about money. It's going to be about opportunity.
Right.
And I think if there was a big name to be added, it would be Lincoln. Do I want to play in the SEC at LSU or do I want to play at Oklahoma?
It's a no-brainer.
But I always thought Lincoln's next stop would be the NFL.
And me too. Dallas Cowboys.
Because of his relationship with Jerry.
Yes. And that's what I've been saying as well. If he's not going to be a pro coach, he'll be at LSU. Because, again, Oklahoma going up against Texas and Texas A&M in the SEC, and, again, not a lot of recruiting fertile ground in Oklahoma. In Louisiana, he can put a fence up here, dabble in those other states, and, again, he can win championships at LSU.
And the most important part of that, develop quarterbacks.
Yes.
Look what's come through that pipe.
There's no doubt. No doubt about it. Mike, thanks as always.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it, buddy.
Sports Talk, 4 to 6?
4 to 6.
4 to 6, Monday through Friday.
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Sometimes they let me stay a little bit longer,
7, 8.
I got to babysit a little while longer for you, Bear, but it's all good.
There you go. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
All right, Mike Detillier with us. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program tonight at 6 p.m. on WLAE-TV. Also, again, The Deuce at 10 p.m. You can check us out there on Friday nights, 9 o'clock, Pelican Sports Television, 10 o'clock on WLAE. Also, again, remember, we're live streaming each and every Thursday. So, again, this program is available on the WLAE-TV YouTube page, also at ericasher.com. On our social media platforms, at Eric_Asher on Twitter, Eric Asher on Facebook, Inside New Orleans Show on Instagram. Also, again, want to thank Mike Detillier for joining us. Also, catch me on the radio, opposite him, 4 to 6 on 106.1 FM. That's weekdays 4 to 6. Listen live at ericasher.com, TuneIn Radio app, iHeartRadio app, and of course the podcast is everywhere. Our podcast is Anchor, but it's on all podcasting platforms. I want to thank our underwriters who make this program possible. Please support the underwriters that support this program. Thanks to them, and then thanks again to the WLAE-TV production staff, which are second to none. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, also Will Ingram, Alex Chacon, and the best director in the business, William Hill. Thanks for joining us today. We'll have another show for you next week, looking at everything that's happening here in sports. For Mike Detillier, I'm Eric Asher. See you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.